When it comes to playing Dead by Daylight in 2024, we're more spoiled now than we've ever been. In the past few years, the game has come a long way. Killers are getting healthy reworks and add-on changes every patch, Survivor is the best it's been since pre-pandemic, and with 2v8 literally right around the corner, it's getting pretty difficult not to get excited about where the game is headed. To celebrate, I think it's about time we give some props to the true heart and soul of DBD. The one thing that's kept this game chugging along for the past 8 years and finally seems to be in a good place: solo queue. This might come as a shock to some people, but hear me out. Solo queue is how you're meant to play the game, and in this video, you're going to learn ways to make Survivor builds that allow you to play your way, no matter what way that is. First and most importantly, we need to talk about why solo queue is such a different experience from even just a two-man survive with friends. I've got timestamps in the pinned comment down below, so feel free to use them to skip around if this doesn't interest you. The biggest hurdle is that in solo queue, you're never guaranteed anything from your teammates. It's not that all solo queue players are unreliable, despite everyone having at least one story of a useless teammate, but instead it's the effects of no communication. It can quickly start to feel like they're conspiring against you when you have bad teammates, but all of your favorite content creators are able to play it, and they don't communicate either, so what's their secret to really enjoying it? In truth, for most of them, it's map knowledge and skill built up from thousands of hours playing the game. But that requires dedication and time. You need something quick and easy because you're not them, and that's totally fair. So I'm going to give you my tips for surviving the suffering, and then we'll get to some specific perks a little later in the video. The first step is changing your mindset. People are too quick to judge their teammates based on small interactions, and just not assuming the worst scenario anytime someone goes down is the quickest way to start having more fun in solo queue. By not immediately blaming your teammates every game, you can start to appreciate what they do more. do. Unless you're following your teammates around, you don't always know what they're doing, and you don't need to. Give them some credit every now and then. It is a 4v1 after all. Instead of judging them, start looking at your gameplay more. Everybody thinks their teammates are useless, but we've all had games where we feel responsible for the team's downfall, and you know in those games, everyone thought you were the shitter. With solo queue matchmaking, I've noticed in every game I've got at least one teammate that I can rely on. It's just not easy to know who it is because everyone makes mistakes, but they're usually there. I don't think that's unintentional. If you can find them in time, it can almost start to feel like a two-man survive with friends. You will still have games with frustrating survivors, none of us are ever truly safe, but changing your mindset around teammates in solo queue can't be understated. It's the single best way to start having more fun. That brings us to the next point: killers. The only consistency between killers and solo queue is that they exist. It's unbelievably wild the difference in killers you can expect to face when queuing by yourself, from beasts to literal babies. That huge range guarantees you nothing consistently. One game, you'll face a killer who gives you a good challenge and start feeling confident. Next game, you're running a baby killer for 5 gens and you feel like an ass. Game after that, you try to take it easy on the killer and get 4-man slugged by a sweaty spirit. I'm sure you get the point. Consistency doesn't exist in solo queue. So the best way to play it is to embrace the randomness. Don't use random perks unless you're a masochist. Instead, find perks that fit your playstyle by experimenting with everything. Not a single perk in the game is truly useless, at least not anymore. Now that you have an idea as to why solo queue can be so frustrating, let's get back to the perks. But first, a quick message from our very own editor Trevor. I want this video to serve as your guide for enjoying solo queue. I don't have all the answers, but the comments down below are yours to do with as you please. If you have tips I don't cover in this video, don't hesitate to put them down below. I read literally all of them. I'm still working through the video from a couple weeks ago. While you're down there, feel free to subscribe. I'm a big stats guy, so can I hit you with some interesting ones? Wayne Gretzky is so good at hockey that he and his brother hold the all-time record for points by brothers in the NHL. His brother Brent has, all-time, 3 points. Another one. Canada just lost to Argentina in the Copa America semifinal. Canada hasn't been competitive in soccer at any point in history, so it was the first and last time Lionel Messi will ever play an elimination game against Canada. Okay, one more, but I promise I saved the craziest stat for last. 99.3% of y'all aren't subscribed. Pure madness. Complete lunacy, if you will. Go help a brother out. It's free. You can always undo it later if you change your mind, and your support means the world. Anyway, back to the video. Perks for solo queue is something that's been talked about dozens of times by dozens of different creators, but I want to focus more on the actual process that goes into making these builds. There's 4 different categories for perks on Survivor. Chase perks are things like Sprint Burst, or really any exhaustion perk. They specialize at getting you out of tricky situations and giving you time to prepare. Info perks are anything that gives you more information you wouldn't necessarily get otherwise. Things like Fogwise, Deja Vu, Windows, the list goes on. While they're less impactful in chase specifically, using them well can effectively keep you out of chase. Next is teamwork perks. Not literally the teamwork perks from Toledo and Renato, but things that affect your teammates as well as or instead of yourself. Prove Thyself, Bardic Inspiration, and Leader are the first three to come to mind here, along with every perk that affects healing in some way. While it's important to split up, coming back together over the course of the trial is equally important. Do it properly, and you can punish the killer for not having enough map pressure. Last, and certainly not least, are fun perks. Perks designed to be funny or really fun to use. Perks like Blast Mine, Head On, and Bardic Inspiration all fit here. Pop quiz! How many times have I mentioned Bardic? Pause and go think for a sec if you need to. Got that answer locked in? Great. The answer is twice. That's because perks aren't just limited to one category. Bardic is one of my favorite perks right now because it can be used for generators, healing, and bribery, on top of being really fun to use. Head On is another great example. It's a meme perk, straight up. You literally sprint out of a locker and scare the killer. It just so happens over time people got better at using it, and now it's one of the best perks in the game. That's something I expect to happen with Bardic over the next few months. Back to actually assembling your builds though, it should include at least one perk for every category. You don't need exhaustion perks, but they help you last longer in chase. You don't need aura reading. Scott Jund actually has a great video on this, I've got linked below, but they help to build game sense. Perks like Kindred can allow you to focus on learning other aspects of the game because you never need to worry about who's going for the hook save. You can just see it. Nobody makes great decisions when they can't see the full picture, so they can teach you a lot. Fun perks are important too, because why are you even playing this game if you're not having fun? Something's got to keep you coming back, unless you're like me and just addicted to spending blood points. Teamwork perks are admittedly the least useful in solo queue, unless you learn when and how to use them more effectively. See my video last week about Bardic Inspiration, it's the best example I can think of. Start your build out with 2 perks, one for chase and one for info. That gives you a solid base to build up off of, and leaves 2 more slots open for whatever your heart desires. I try to give every build I make at least 3 games. It gives me the time to adjust my playstyle to better use the perks that are fullest, or change complementary perks to tweak it slightly. For example, if I'm running a Didact build, but load in against a Plague, it might be tempting to take that build off for the next game. You could absolutely do that, nobody's stopping you. But I know I'm unlikely to get another game where healing is completely useless, so that keeps me using it for at least another game. 3 games is enough for me. Yours might be more, it might be less. Just make sure you're giving all your perks a fair test. So, you've got 2 perks selected. What's next? Well, I'm glad you asked. At this point, the possibilities are endless. For me, I like to lean into new perks and find new synergies, like Bardic Inspiration, Autodidact, and Deadline. This is where the beauty of YouTube can't be stated enough. This game has been out for 8 years. Anytime you need inspiration, there's thousands of videos just waiting at your fingertips. There's also lots of perks that haven't been talked about recently. Perks that got changed for better or for worse and went under the radar. But most importantly, brand new perks are being released every few months. As for some more examples, I'm going to keep it brief because I need stuff to talk about in future videos, but here's a few 2 perk combos you can run in those extra 2 slots. Wiretap Blast Mine is a classic. What's better than blowing up a killer? Blowing up a killer and everybody seeing it. Head On and Quick and Quiet is old, reliable, but great because it doesn't limit you to only one exhaustion perk, like Sprint Burst does. Dramaturgy is another great pairing with Head On for the same reason. It allows you to choose your exhaustion effect based on the situation. Flashbang could be thrown in there too, as well as inner strength, but at this point I think I'm just naming locker perks, so I'm gonna end the video here. Don't forget to post your perk combo. Don't forget to post your perk combos in the comments below. I want us all to help each other get better, and if we can keep experimenting with new stuff instead of just using what's meta, then we'll still be playing this game in another 8 years. Until next time, take care out there in the fog.